Chapter 21. A Day at Dakshineshwar. Saturday, April 5, 1884. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning when M arrived at the temple garden and found Sri Ramakrishna seated on the small couch in his room. A few devotees were sitting on the floor. The master was talking to them. Pran Krishna Mukherjee was there. Pran Krishna belonged to an aristocratic family and lived in the northern part of Calcutta. He held a high post in an English business firm. He was very much devoted to Sri Ramakrishna, and though a householder, derived great pleasure from the study of Vedanta philosophy. He was a frequent visitor at the temple garden. Once he invited the master to his house in Calcutta and held a religious festival. Every day, early in the morning, he bathed in the holy water of the Ganges. Whenever it was convenient, he would come to Dakshineshwar in a hired country boat. That morning he had hired a boat and invited M to accompany him to Dakshineshwar. The boat had hardly left shore when the river became choppy. M had become frightened and begged Pran Krishna to put him back on land. In spite of assurances, M had kept saying, "You must put me ashore. I shall walk to Dakshineshwar." And so M came on foot and found Sri Ramakrishna talking to Pran Krishna and the others. Master to Pran Krishna. But there is a greater manifestation of God in man. You may ask, how is it possible for God to be incarnated as a man who suffers from hunger, thirst, and the other traits of an embodied being, and perhaps also from disease and grief? The reply is, even Brahman weeps, entrapped in the snare of the 5 elements. Don't you know how Ram had to weep, stricken with grief for Sita? Further, it is said that the Lord incarnated himself as a sow in order to kill the demon Hiranyaksha. Hiranyaksha was eventually killed, but God would not go back to his abode in heaven. He enjoyed his sow's life. He had given birth to several young ones and was rather happy with them. The gods said among themselves, "What does this mean? The Lord doesn't care to return to heaven." They all went to Shiva and laid the matter before him. Shiva came down and urged the Lord to leave the sow body and return to heaven. But the sow only suckled her young ones. Laughter. Then Shiva destroyed the sow body with his trident, and the Lord came out laughing aloud and went back to his own abode. Pran Krishna to the Master. Sir, what is the anahata sound? Master. It is the spontaneous sound constantly going on by itself. It is the sound of the pranava, Om. It originates in the Supreme Brahman and is heard by yogis. People immersed in worldliness do not hear it. A yogi alone knows that this sound originates both from his navel and from the Supreme Brahman, resting on the ocean of milk. Footnote: according to Hindu mythology, after the dissolution of the universe and before the next creation, the Supreme Lord rests on the ocean of the Great Cause, also called the ocean of milk. Footnote ends.